I'd like to take a moment to thank my channel members for your continued support. Thank you, and consider joining today for added perks and exclusive content. Hello and welcome, I'm Bert the Stormtrooper, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Shogun Warriors Brave RAYDEEN, and I love this toy. Originally released in 1977, he retailed for approximately $15. 1.5. That's a big deal considering the huge prices these guys fetch in today's collector markets. These guys go for a lot. So yeah, this is one of the Shogun Warriors that I got recently. A couple of months ago at a toy show, I found a great Machinder Shogun, which is one of the ones that I had as a kid. And I picked him up. He was in a bin under the table as a junker. There's a whole bin full of these guys as junker or for parts. And I picked up that great Machinder. I restored him, made a video on him. I told the story about him. I'll put a link over here for you if you want to watch that. But then I ended up talking with the dealer one more time and followed up with him. I'm like, do you still have that bin full of junkers? He goes, yeah. And I bought the whole thing. And I spent the last couple of months restoring these guys, you know, getting the, cleaning them up and getting replacement parts for them, new stickers, all of that. Really, really happy with the results. Now, RAYDEEN here is based on the, I believe, 1975 Toei animation or anime, Brave RAYDEEN. And what's really cool about this guy is this guy actually well, he doesn't transform, but on the show he did. You know, these Toei super robots, they were kind of the first of their kinds. And this was, I think he was one of the first ones that actually transformed as well. Very cool. You can kind of use him, obviously this one doesn't transform, but you use your imagination, you can kind of transform him and make him fly and all of that. I was talking with a buddy of mine, a fellow YouTuber, Larkin, from Larkin's Lair, and he was telling me the story of how he would fly his around the yard when he was a kid, right? So that's actually really cool. So what he did on the show is really neat. If you look at him sideways, you can see right here that the side of the head almost looks like a bird. Right, so it had a very, like a bird motif to him. So what he would do is he would go from robot, he would get up on the side or on his back like this. These shoulder pauldrons, these would actually flip down on both sides, and these would extend and the arms would retract. So this would all become like the side of a ship. And then the legs, you would imagine that they would go in a sitting position. So the thighs would go up on a 90-degree angle, and then the knees would bend back towards the rear again at a 90-degree angle, and there you go, you'd have your ship right there. Again, just takes a little bit of imagination. Hold this guy like this, flap his shoulders, pauldrons down, and there you go, you got yourself a ship. You can fly around just like you did on the show. Very, very cool. This is such a beautiful, beautiful figure with a lot of features. Now, he does stand, like with all the Jumbo Machinders and Shogun Warriors, he does stand approximately 24 inches tall. That's 2 feet. These guys are absolutely massive, and it takes some planning to get these guys displayed properly if you're planning on getting into one of these guys. And just kind of going all the way around so you can see the entire robot, and you can see all of the details on him. Really, really beautiful robot from our childhood. Now, as was the case with a lot of these Shogun Warriors, there was several versions of this guy released in the U.S. This one is mostly a version 2. There was 3 versions. This one is mostly a version 2, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. So if you're looking for differences, if you look at the launcher part back here, you'll notice that on my launcher, there's these little curved parts out here where they kind of curve outwards. The version 1, this would have been straight up and down. It would have been almost like a rectangle for version 1. And then also the wheels on the bottom of the feet would have been pinned through where these have like clip-on trucks. That would have been the version 1. Version 2, which is mostly what I've got here, as you can see, you got the clip-on trucks, and you've got this rounded out launcher part back here. Version 3 is almost identical, but he's missing the shoulder pauldrons. They didn't put those on. Again, kind of like they did with Great Machinder or Mazinga, where they kind of started looking for cheaper ways of making them, right? Now, one of the features that he has is his shield, and it's kind of like a sword or a dagger that he's got coming out of the arm right here. This is the Japanese one. This is the one from the Jumbo Machinder. The Popy Jumbo Machinder had this arm specifically, and then over here on this arm, he would have had a Bowfist, which is actually what he had on the show. For his US release, they opted to give him a launcher with an iron cutter fist, which is actually meant for Machinder Z. Machinder Z was the one that had the iron cutter launching fist. They, you know, these figures, when they were released in Japan, they were cheap figures that you could get all of these different accessories for. So for whatever reason, they mixed and matched parts, and the one that we got in the US, instead of having the Bowfist, had the launching iron cutter. Maybe because they wanted to give him more launching gimmicks, I don't know. Because he would only have the Delta Wing would be the only firing gimmick if they would have given him the Bowfist. So I don't know, maybe that's the case. But the reason that I know that this is the Japanese fist is because there's several versions of this fist as well on the shield here. For the US, none of them have 2 screws like I have. The Japanese version had the 2 screws. I talked with the person I bought this from, and it turns out that he had bought a Japanese one. He was mixing and matching parts to make a good, nice, complete one, and he had bought a Japanese one because he wanted that Bowfist for his. Again, the Bowfist is what would be correct for the anime character. So he got that Bowfist on whatever figure he had, and I'm assuming that whatever shield and dagger arm he kept was in better condition than this one. And that's how this figure ended up with this one. So this guy ended up with a Japanese arm, but the rest of the figure is a version 2. So a lot of little intricacies there. Articulation-wise, just like all the other Jumbo Machinders or Shogun Warriors, not a whole lot to write home about here. The arms can go forward and backwards all the way around. That's going to be about it. That's really kind of it. Now for features, like I mentioned, he did come with an iron cutter fist and that launcher right there. So all you got to do is press on that button, and it's going to fire that with some pretty good force, considering, again, that these things are 40-something years old. They still work fantastic. These toys have really, really kept up. So there you go. You can, you know, iron cutter, and just throw that, you know, and play with it that way. Take somebody's eye out. You can rotate the arm, even though there's a plug. It does have a plug right there that plugs into the piece right here for the launcher. That also still rotates, so you are able to rotate the arm. So I guess you can count that as articulation. Same thing goes with this fist. This fist can also rotate. You'll notice how the actual fist itself is much larger when in proportion to the rest of the arm. The Bowfist is the same way. That was one of the features about this guy in the anime. His fists were enormous. You'll notice that on the iron cutter, the fist is actually proportionate to the rest of the arm. That's a big telltale sign that wasn't meant for him right there. Another thing that he included was 5 of these Delta Wings. These are little plain arrow, dart, whatever you want to call them, that fire out of his chest. He would have had 5 of these. And as you saw the launching mechanism that I showed you earlier, in the back there, you just press that down and you fire those away. And that is what the Delta Wings will look like. And then you can just take that guy, pop it right back in his chest again, clip it in place, and you're ready to fire again. A lot of fun. These figures were so much fun. It was so great because these were so cheap and they're so light. Kids can just, you know, pick these up and play with them. I didn't mention the wheels. I mentioned these in previous reviews for the other ones. You know, you can just kind of roll them around and whatnot. But, you know, these are very easy for kids to pick up, run around with, hold like this, pretend that they're flying them like my friend Larkin did. So, yeah, these are just a lot of, these just fun toys that we had back in the 70s. A couple of comparisons because these guys are huge. I have shown my great Machinder here before, so we'll bring in Machinder again just for comparison so you can see what the two of them look like together. Again, all of these guys are going to be about 2 feet tall. And I'm popping his missiles out of his legs. But there you go, so you can see what those guys look like together if you're curious about seeing just another Shogun next to him. Since you guys know me for Transformers, let's bring in this guy right here. I got a G1 Scorpenoc right here, which, as you guys know, if you're regular on my channel, you guys know Scorpenoc is a pretty enormous Transformer, completely dwarfed by this guy right here. I got a Fortress Maximus, but I'm not pulling it out. I'm not going down there to get him out. Fortress Maximus is 24 inches, so he would be about the same size. So, you know, imagine, yeah, you can do the math, right? Now, for a little bit more of a modern comparison, this is the most current Optimus Prime figure on the market right now. This is the Legacy Generation 2 Laser Optimus Prime. and is completely dwarfed. It barely reaches his knee. So yeah, these guys are absolutely enormous, and they are so impressive. They make such an impressive display. You got to plan out your display. It took me a couple of months to figure out where I was going to put these and how I was going to display them. But once I got that done, figured out and put up, these guys look absolutely amazing up on the shelf, up on the wall in my video game room. That's where I put them. And they just look so impressive. Yeah, if you're into this kind of thing, if you got the time and you got the money, you know, and you got the patience. You got to be patient because you're not going to complete these in a week. You got to do some research. You got to look for parts. You got to source out some of the parts, that kind of a thing. And it just depends on, you know, how much of a stickler are you. Do you absolutely want the original part? Are you okay with the reproduction part? There's a lot of reproductions available out there, but it can be done, and they are a lot of fun to restore, and they are just such a beautiful piece to display. And I think that about does it for the Shogun Warriors Raideen. What did you think of this figure? Let me know down in the comments. Give me some thumbs up. Subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified when I upload a new video. I've got a donate button up there. I also now offer channel memberships. If you're so inclined to do either one of those, I would greatly appreciate it. Please share with your friends if you like what you see, and I'll talk to you next time.